Joined by head coach Gary Smith. Coach, your thoughts on tonight?
Yeah. Well, look, a big focus for the group after Saturday's game was to start brighter, to try and be a tad more aggressive. And I thought the opening 20 minutes of the game was a far better spectacle than maybe we saw at the weekend, where we were a little bit passive. And there were a couple of opportunities. Obviously, the most notable one was Fafa's header that may have changed the direction of the game. And we'll get back to that point against very good teams where there's not going to be an awful lot of chances. They had 2 shots, 1 on target, and made the difference. We had 8 shots, 0 on target, and were unable to test the goalkeeper in a game where I think we'd all agree there were at least 2 or 3 moments that could have been more clinical and certainly more effective in this game. Tight game, good side, didn't go our way, but I thought the early exchanges for sure were far better. The concerns obviously later on in the game when we were chasing it, there needed to be a tad more composure, but there were some signs there that I thought early on that looked an awful lot better in a game that was always going to be very tight.
Thank you, Coach. Father, go ahead.
Gary, I have to ask you about officiating. I saw you go and talk to them after the match. This is not the first time this is brought up here. What did you see from them tonight?
Yeah, I'm obviously bitterly disappointed. I saw the goal on a monitor, which I'm not allowed to use as evidence on the touchline of this shouldn't be a goal. But what I saw on the monitor led me to believe that the goal was offside. I can't believe I've got a better angle on a laptop from the angle we had than VAR or the officials should have had. And unless somebody can say categorically that I'm wrong, I still believe that the goal was marginally offside. I found it difficult to understand, even from where the officials would have seen it, that Maguire makes a run in front of Jack Mayer, who is clearly the last defender, and it looks very much like Santos, who delivered the ball, was marginally behind him but working the ball into space. That's what I saw. It's the biggest decision in the game, and it's won Orlando the game, and obviously made us feel, far more disappointed than maybe we would have done with a point again. So I can't answer that question. The officials, not just the goal. I thought there were some other occasions that, were strange. Let's just put it that way. There were some strange decisions that, in a game where Orlando seemed intent, for the quality team that they are, they spent so much time trying to run down the clock. It was really weird. I would have expected more than that from a team of that quality. But they obviously have their style, and their manager is obviously reinforcing certain qualities and, gentlemanly conduct abilities. When you're winning, I guess, you can go through that process, but it's not anything that I would want from my team. Let me put it that way.
For those on the Zoom, if you have a question, just alert me. In the meantime, we'll continue in the room here. Ben, go ahead, please.
Yeah, Gary, you mentioned kind of the opening 15, 20 minutes. I think within the first 25 minutes you had taken as many shots as you did in the whole game against Seattle. And it seemed brighter, but as the game went on, obviously it seemed like it was harder and harder to find any space. No shots in stoppage time.
Yeah.
Just at home in a game where you need a goal, how do you, it just seems kind of like if you're not able to find something from a situation like this, when do you think?
Yeah, look, I thought he was going to use that word concerning again, and I was ready for it. But yeah, listen, you're right. The opening exchanges were far better. I've already said that. I thought the group looked like fatigue had just set into that final 10 minutes of the first half, and they were able to find a breakthrough. And you know, let's be really honest about this. Against a very good side who have a fantastic away record and are in a great position in the league, to limit a side like that to 2 shots in the game, 2 shots fully, and 1 on target is, you know, in certain terms, very, very good work. So, as I've said, I was happy with the first half. What happened at half time or after half time, having gone behind in a difficult moment, a minute before the break or 2 minutes before the break, you know, it's always disappointing, but the message was that, you know, we needed to start off with the same sort of intensity and mindset as we did in the first half. And I thought there was some good energy early on, although not the same sort of chances. Yes, for sure, as we got into the meat of that second period, and certainly as the game finished up, it looked as though, you know, the group were, you know, clutching at straws a little bit in the way that we were going to try and find an opening. It looked like confidence had been eroded, and some individuals that we obviously look towards to try and you know, make a difference, were dropping deeper and deeper, which, you know, you can understand to a large degree. There are a couple of guys that want to get on the ball and they want to try and make a difference, and that's all a consequence of obviously being behind and against a side that know how to navigate those situations as they did. But look, let me finish up with this for the question. We're all frustrated about the defeat. There were some things in it that I think we can actually grasp onto and move forward with, which is good news. There are definitely things that we can discuss about that probably final 25 minutes of the game. But most importantly, I think the group have agreed that we've got more than enough quality to what we'd like to maybe class as do some damage in the playoffs. You know, I'm not sure there are many teams that would want to play us, but at this moment in time, there's just a lack of sparkle, you know, and it can be the tiniest of things and the most simplistic of moments that can change the course of events. And you know, Fafa's header early on that he heads into the ground a yard away from him and bounces over, he's pretty unique. Not sure he could do that again, but those moments against good teams make a big difference, because now they've got to try and pick a lock, and that's where we've got to get to. Still ultra confident about what we can get out of this final running. Still very, very confident about what we will be able to achieve in the playoffs. But I know we would all like, at this point in time in these final 3 games, just to be reminded of really what we achieved in the Leagues Cup and in some of our finer moments. And I think that's what we need at this point in time.
Claudio, go ahead.
Gary, obviously a lot of these good things, like you said, are going to be pressuring Nashville highlight or not did today, because they know that by doing that they might prevent the transition, which is one of the best ones for sure. But then, and that's going to happen probably. But how do you avoid with the team to get so much frustrated when that happens? That you're actually chosen.
Yeah, you know what? In the first half, Claudio, I thought there were some moments where we've over the course of the last maybe 2 months, I think we've improved dramatically when we've built out of the back. And you know, I've said to the guys, we need to be selective, but there are going to be moments where we can build out of the back from goal kicks, and we can get an overload, and we can take advantage. Teams are leaving themselves 3v3 and 2v2 at the back, and you know, they're moments to try and take advantage of. The second period, after an initial burst, I thought we tried to force things a little bit. You know, maybe the moment wasn't there. There was a mistake made. Okay, I tell you what, we might have to go a little bit longer here and try and do what we've also done very, very well. Win that second phase area and win the ball higher up the field. And then we'll go again and mix that game up a little bit. Because there were a couple of occasions in the middle part of the second half where they nicked it in very good areas, and it could have been, quite decisive. So a little bit of management in those periods. I like the confidence of the guys to want to try and achieve that, but maybe maybe a little bit more perspective of how the game's going. But I do think, as we're talking about the group and some of the areas that we need to, just click back into gear with, it's of course in those attacking areas. We're lacking that invention and sparkle. I think we're lacking a little bit of a connection as well. There was one, I remember it was right in front of us. Somebody intercepted in the middle part of the field, played out to Fafa. Fafa gets on his way. We've got Sam and Hani breaking, and Fafa plays a ball inside that doesn't connect, and they nick it and go back the other way. Okay, everyone will forget about that because it didn't come to a chance. But what we know is, at our best, we might get something out of that. There's a moment to be had. There's a threat to be had, which starts to build in the opponent's mind. And I think it's those moments when you're lacking a little bit of confidence, which I think some of the guys are at this point in time, working tirelessly, putting themselves, in good positions, but those finer moments, those really important moments, we're just missing those connections, and it's got to be uppermost in our mind for sure in these final 3 games.
Go ahead.
Gary, you mentioned this past Saturday was Sam's building up to getting 90 minutes under his belt. He has 90 minutes and then some tonight. How do you like his performance from tonight as well? Along with, when Teal came into the mix in that second half variation of attack, what do you think of Sam's, counter off the ball back?
I think he'll come out of this as one of the guys with probably the most pleasing and confident attitude. It's been a while since he's played 90 minutes. There were times on the line I was worried about maybe pushing a little bit too far, but obviously the circumstances led us to that. I thought there were some really nice moments, and maybe we're coming off here and saying he gets himself an assist. He was actually in a fantastic position. I think it was Sam, and Fafa hits the first man with his cross, and just a little bit more quality there, and maybe we're saying he's got an assist and a goal. And they're the really fine lines we're talking about. They're all ifs, buts and maybes. It didn't happen. So therefore we can only lean on the fact that he's had a good 90 minutes. He'll feel great about that, and pleased that him, Hani, Randall, Fafa, some of those attacking players have seen the field for a prolonged period of time. And I'm hopeful that those minutes are going to be instrumental in maybe what we see further down the line, because it's going to be a mainline piece of the puzzle. Hopefully that gives him a little bit of a shot in the arm, and we'll see Saturday where that takes us. But right now, yes, the results are important. I think we'd have all come off clean sheet or 1-1, and we might have said, okay, that weren't so bad. So the result is obviously shining a bit of a darker light on it, and absolutely so. But I think, certainly from where I sit, and I know you guys are thinking all the same thing, how do we get that invention, that sparkle, and that real edge back in their half of the field? And that's going to be the real, focus over the next couple of weeks, and certainly 3 games that we've got left.
Tim, go ahead.
Hey Gary, looking forward to Saturday's game. How do you guys react without Daniel available after his red card tonight? And kind of what is your, general motivation about the game? What is your kind of philosophy as you go into Saturday's game on the heels of 2 matches that probably disappointed you a little bit?
Yeah, well, a lot actually. It's another playoff challenge. We're looking at a team that could be part of the equation for us. I would think the way Philadelphia are positioning themselves, it certainly could be a case of we've got to go through Philadelphia again if we want to achieve anything. They've constantly been a challenge every game we've played has been incredibly tight or physically demanding. None more so than a game that we played here, you know, seems like an eternity ago now, but if I remember rightly, we're talking about some very similar things in the game. You know, I thought there was a penalty early on when Glesnes came through the back of Teal, and I remember it because it was a penalty in my mind. There were opportunities, I think, that Teal had in the game that may well have changed the direction of that particular game. And then 2 penalties and 2 sendings off, if I'm right, that, you know, took the game away from us. So there's an aspect of this game that I think a lot of the guys will want to try and redeem. But most importantly, as I've said so much here, I won't go over it anymore. Confidence, bit of inspiration. We've got to find, you know, our springboard and platform to push on. And we'll work towards that at the weekend. That will be the first protocol.